And welcome back, Nats fans, to another episode of the DoDcast Postgame Show. I'm District on Deck co-editor Ricky Keeler, and the Washington Nationals had a 6-1 lead in a game where they played the B squad tonight. The B squad, for the most part, handled their own. But Edwin Jackson was terrible. Gave up 5 runs in the 5th, and then Nori Aoki's ground rule double in the 6th against Joe Blanton gave the Mets a 7-6 win. Nats had their chance, especially in the 9th, 1st and 3rd, 1 out. And Adam Lynn flies out against Josh Smoker, and then Victor Robles, who had a good night all around, strikes out against Juris Familia, who gets his first save since May 5th. So the Mets get a big win, and for the Nats, it was a chance to see which guys could maybe take advantage of a postseason audition. And for the most part, a lot of the guys failed. I mean, especially I think the big takeaway from the night, Edwin Jackson's not making this team in the playoffs. You cannot blow a 5-run lead in the 5th inning, and I put that one on the manager. I understand he's trying to get Edwin Jackson a win. I understand. I know I was watching an SNY, and they brought up the point that I don't think Dusty's managing for this, but Edwin Jackson is 2 wins shy of 100 for his career. He would likely get another start coming up, so he was maybe trying to get him close to that 100th win. But that was a bad decision to let him face d'Arnaud, who had already hit a home run against him. d'Arnaud crushes a 3-run shot to left center, and he's owned Nats this year. On 8 hits, he's had 8 hits against Washington the entire season. 4 of them have left the yard. And he's had 2 multi-homer games, both against the Nats. So for some reason, the Nats can't get Travis d'Arnaud or Jose Reyes. I don't know why that is. That's just baseball, I guess. But a rough night for the Nats. Still a lot of positives. I thought, again, Robles was great. Had the big 2-run triple. Showed good plays in the field, even though I think he took a wrong route to a ball hit by Aoki. But all around, some good things. Bryce Harper took some BP today and hit some mammoth shots. We'll talk more about that coming up. And a surprise decision on who will start for the Mets tomorrow. We'll get into that, but we want to hear from you. So please feel free to share your thoughts here on the YouTube page. You can also tweet me on Twitter at DistrictOnDeck or at Rickinator555. Now, because both these sites, we usually do the totals, but we don't have a lot of totals, because both score sites are very slow to load. I will try to get the totals here. I'll have to pull it up from my phone, so excuse me 1 second, because the MLB.com does not seem to work. See if it's changed. But again, the Mets do get the win 7-6. The win goes to Paul Sewald out of the bullpen. The loss goes to Joe Blanton, and the save to Juris Familia, as I mentioned earlier. And, of course, one of the big takeaways from the night, like Seth just brought up, Sean Kelly leaving the game in the 8th inning with an injury. We'll wait and see what Dusty Baker says on it, but that did not look good. Kelly had an 0-2 count and then looked into the dugout, and immediately the Paul Sard, Mike Maddox, and Dusty Baker came out, and Kelly had to leave the game. Matt Albers finished the inning. They got Rosario thrown out at second on a stolen base attempt, and then Lagares flew out to center. But it's sad. If this is a big injury to Sean Kelly, a guy who's already had 2 Tommy Johns, as Dan Coco tweeted, is really a leader in that clubhouse. And I always think back 1 year ago, Sean Kelly was arguably the second best reliever on this team behind Mark Melancon. And amazing how much can happen in a year, and you feel terrible for him. He's worked so hard to get back, especially after ending his year last year in Game 5 with an injury. He's been hurt all year long, and you just hope it's nothing serious, because I don't think if it is another surgery that it'd be tough for him to keep playing. You would want to see him keep playing, but it just has not looked right all season. And I think it's largely because of the injury. I just don't think he just lost it all of a sudden. He's been battling stuff all season long. Seth also brings up how I expect Robles to be playing in the playoffs. Right now, and Ron and I kind of did not like the idea early in the month when he got the call-up. But at this point, if it's between another pitcher or Victor Robles, I think you've got to take Victor Robles, just in fact for the speed. I mean, you saw him in this game, had the triple, which he hit the end of the bat, and he was able to get a base hit on that play. And then he tries to bunt for a hit earlier in the game and almost beat it out. Gesellman just got there quick enough to make the play, but even if he doesn't get a chance to start, which he's not going to in the postseason barring an injury, his speed can change a game. You could bring him in. You're down a run in the ninth like you were tonight. You could bring Victor Robles in because I am stunned that they don't allow Wilmer Defoe to steal. I mean, that was a situation where if Wilmer Defoe's on second, Howie Kendrick gets an RBI. Travis d'Arnaud cannot throw anybody out. And I'm really surprised that Dusty and Davey Lopes, who pride themselves on aggressiveness, are not running on the bases. I mean, that's what Wilmer Defoe is going to be in October. He's not going to come as a starter in the field. He's going to pinch run. You have to at least attempt to steal a base. They did in the Diaz at bat. Norioka made a hell of a play to take probably an RBI from him. And then on the Kendrick play, he did a nice job on the 0-2 pitch, getting a blue hit to right field. But that's where an RBI could have happened. And a lot of the stuff tonight, I think, is on the manager. And again, I'm not going to fire him because of it. But leaving Edwin Jackson in the fifth and then not running with Defoe, I really don't get it. They had A.J. Ramos on the hook. Give Terry Collins credit. Collins has done this a lot this year, where if he sees a closer struggling, he's not going to leave him in. He's going to go to the bullpen. And he went matchup based with Smoker against Lynn, and it paid off. A lot of people, I got a tweet during the game, would I have used Ryan Zimmerman in that spot instead of Adam Lind? And my answer to that would have been no. Dusty did not want to use the regulars tonight. He had to use Daniel Murphy because he had used Roddy Reed to hit in the sixth inning. So Murphy had to come in, and then Collins played the matchups properly, brought in Jerry Blevins, who owns Murphy, and he got the job done. So no harm, no foul, at least on the Mets side. I thought they played that perfectly. I like the way the Nats were playing early in this game. I mean, the Mets did get the early run in the second inning on the home run by d'Arnaud. I mean, all in all, Jackson had good stuff for about 4 innings. And then the fifth inning, it just unraveled for him. He gives up the bunt hit to Lagares. Aoki gets a single. Reyes singles. Cabrera singles. He gets the strikeout of Brandon Nimmo. And you got d'Arnaud up, and I'll bring it up with Alvar Perez in the bullpen. I know it's not lefty-lefty, but I don't think you could have had Jackson finish that. You should have been happy with the 4 2/3 you got from him. I understand that Dusty's trying to help his veteran. That can't happen. You got to take Jackson out of the game. He was upset he came out of the game after the home run, but just the way it goes, he's not pitching well. And I think he's lost the playoff spot. There's no way, in my mind, that he's playing in the postseason. None. AJ Cole's not making it. I mean, it's tough to see if Matt Grace even makes it because he was warming up in the bullpen, and Dusty went to Albers, who wasn't even warming. Now, you get all the time in the world to warm up, but at some point, if Matt Grace can't get into a game he was warming up, I don't know what his chances are. I mean, you're probably looking right now at Enny Romero, who got some help from Diaz tonight, who made a good play to get Cabrera at second base, and he also doubled up Aoki early in the game. So I thought Diaz did some good things defensively and had 2 hits. But Romero did throw a scoreless 7, so you have to give him credit for that. But the bullpen's sort of shaping itself out, and at least I don't think Jackson will be in it. I low-key thought Bryce Harper was going to pit in the 9th. We're talking about SNY. I mean, if Harper does hit the ball well tomorrow, he is going to hit with the team. He did take batting practice, shagged some balls in right field, ran the bases today. I wouldn't be surprised, and I know SNY brought this up, that Harper maybe could pinch hit later in the series, maybe Sunday or something like that. I'll be surprised if you see Harper before Monday. But it's a good sign that he looks good. He's crushing balls in BP. And if he passes that final hurdle tomorrow, he should be back next week. And that's a good thing for this offense because I think they really need it in a big way. They've done a good job holding serve without him, but they need him to go big in October. Let me see if we have let me take a look here. For some reason, the Game Center not loading today. I really don't like that. All in all, again, Alvar Perez did a nice job getting that out, but the Nats only had 2 hits against the Mets bullpen over the last 4 innings. That's not going to get it done. Situational hitting was a problem tonight. They had bases loaded, nobody out in the second inning against Gazelman, and couldn't finish the deal. Sanchez popped out, Severino popped out, and Jackson struck out. Now, you could say that was the wrong part of the lineup, but you've got to get a run home in that situation, regardless of who's up. The line on Gazelman, 5 innings, 5 runs, 4 hits, 4 strikeouts, 3 walks, 80 pitches, 48 strikes. Jackson's line, not much better. 4 2/3, 6 runs, 8 hits, 4 strikeouts, 2 walks, 77 pitches, 49 strikes. Yes, my mom did have a good birthday, Seth. I'm sure she's happy. We were actually watching a little bit of the game earlier today. I was with my dog, Nugget, so we were watching a little bit of the game. Again, we watch on SNY. It was a weird thing SNY was doing, but I kind of like it. If you're not familiar with SNY, Gary Cohen, Keith Hernandez, Ron Darling do a fantastic job. You'll hear Ron Darling in a couple weeks for TBS call the playoff games, and hopefully he gets the Nats Cubs series. I think you all will enjoy him. If you haven't listened to him already, he's one of the better analysts out there. Well, they did their broadcast from the Shea Bridge. Now, if you haven't been to Citi Field, it's kind of in right center. If you're watching the game, it's a little bit in right, I would say like 420 away, 430 away. But they did a broadcast from that part of the field. And they were talking to season ticket holders who were sitting there, interviewing them for an inning. Keith Hernandez was eating chicken parm during the 7th inning. It's a really fun telecast. And yes, you could say, well, the Mets have nothing to play for. And that's true. But it was still entertaining. It's a different thing. Not a lot of teams do broadcasts outside of the press box. I guarantee I listen to a lot of Met games when the Nats aren't playing. And I do enjoy those 3. They do a great job. But if you hear anything Bob and FP say, please tell us, because we want to hear what they're talking about. And thank you, Seth. I really appreciate that. Now, let my family know that as well. So all in all, I thought Dusty did the right thing to let the bench guys get an opportunity. I was reading an article that Mark Zuckerman wrote where he talked to Dusty, and Dusty kind of said he wants to see what these guys can do. They've been sitting a lot, but they've been paying attention. It's kind of, I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but that's kind of what they were looking at here. Let me see if I think I have the quote here, actually. Dusty said before they get to Mark Zuckerman, I want to see some timely hitting, some defense, and hopefully some things they possibly would have learned here, because I urged them to pay attention while they were sitting on the bench on how to play, and most of them were paying attention. He also said before the game, they're not here to paint, they're here to win, which I thought was a really good quote. Dusty trusts these guys. And I don't think he's trying to give away a game when these guys play. And they had a 5-run lead. It's really up to Edwin Jackson as a veteran to hold that lead. And the magic's worn off him. He's getting up home runs left and right. And it's sad because he was really good for about a month. Really, the only team that could beat him was Milwaukee. And ever since that game in Milwaukee in early September, it's gone downhill for him. You can tell his confidence is gone. He very frustrated, and rightfully so. And just a rough night all around for Edwin Jackson. Looking at other offensive performances tonight, again, Kendrick had a 2-hit game. Diaz actually had 1 hit. The second hit was ruled an error, so that's my apologies. Rosario got an error on that one. 7 runs, 12 hits, 2 errors for the Mets, 6 runs, 6 hits, no errors for the Nats. Wilmer Defoe did have a hit today, but he has not played well since being on the bench. Bottom of the order did terrible. Adrian Sanchez 0 for 4, Pedro Severino 0 for 4, Rafael Bautista 0 for 3, 6 through 8 in the lineup went 0 for 11. But again, that's you're not going to go too hard on these guys. But I think the star of the show was Victor Robles. He did an excellent job, and he's earned his spot. If the Nats decide to put him on the postseason roster, he's earned it. The guy who killed the Nets tonight, Nori Aoki. Made good plays in right field, had the ground rule double in the 6th, was getting base hits, was stealing bases. The Mets got Aoki, I think, in September 1st as an extra outfielder because of all the injuries they've had with Cespedes, Conforto. They dealt Bruce, they dealt Granderson. And Aoki's been a nice player for them. So I thought he did a nice job lead-off spot. Juan Lagares, who's one of the better defensive center fielders in the league, had a couple of tough routes on baseballs early in the game, made a nice sliding catch as well. So he's definitely a guy you got to watch out for, at least as a fielder. He's really good. So the Nats go to 92 and 61. The Mets go to 66 and 87. Yes, Seth, let me answer. Seth has 2 questions here. Do you think Defoe should have ran and scored on the sac fly in the 9th? I do think he should have ran when Deaza was up, or at least early when Kendrick was up. Which I don't know why Kendrick was bunting in that situation even. But you got to use Defoe's speed. He's as I said earlier, to me in the playoffs, he's going to be a pinch runner. maybe use him for defensive versatility if someone goes down, but you got to be able to steal bases in that situation. I mean, that's something in October I want Dusty to get aggressive. Darno does not throw runners out well, so you got to be able to take advantage of that, and I was kind of surprised he didn't do that. I don't think they lost the game because of it, but in hindsight, you can make that case because if he's on second, that Kendrick singles ties the game. And you could tell Defoe wanted to run that pop-up hit by Lynn. Nimmo would have had him out by a mile. The other question, would I rather have Wieters hitting or Severino defense? Severino is a good defender. He did let a ball go through his legs tonight, and that's kind of an issue too. Severino has not been what people have expected from him this year. He's struggled offensively in AAA. He is a good defender, and he's played well in the major leagues. I don't think he separated himself either from Jose Lobaton. And yes, Lobaton's been pretty bad this year. But to me, you've got to be a really strong defensively because Matt Wieters, for all the stuff we get him this year, and he's had a disappointing year, no question about it. His offense, especially late in games, in clutch runner scoring position situations, he's actually been really good. Out of his 51 RBIs, 44 of them are with mid and scoring position. So I would take Wieters' offense. And I think he has a good job calling the game, but teams will run on him. I got an article on this going up tomorrow, Seth, about how teams like the Cubs and the Brewers, if they somehow win the Central, Milwaukee's had the most stolen bases in the National League in the second half. I mean, they'll gladly run on Matt Wieters, and they'll make it a game where any stolen base in the playoffs can backfire easily on a team. So I would monitor that. I think it'll be interesting to see what the Nats decide to do and how they counteract that. Will Max Scherzer throw over to the base more? Will Strasburg throw to the base more? Will the bench call more throws to first? That'll be interesting. I also have a fun fact in an article tomorrow. There are only 3 Nats pitchers who have picked off a runner this year. I won't give you the 3 because I want you to read it. We'll get into Noah Syndergaard. But I want to first, let's look at the around the town scoreboard, see what's going on in the rest of baseball. A lot of pennant races going on. St. Louis got a huge win against the Pirates 4-3. They actually rallied against Felipe Rivero in this game. So a big win for St. Louis. They're right now a game out of the wild card. And the Cardinals are a dangerous team if they do make the wild card. We got Cubs and Brewers right now are 4-4 in the 8th inning. Milwaukee needs this win. They blew that game last night. They've lost a couple of heartbreakers the last 2 days. So we'll keep an eye on that. Atlanta beat Milwaukee 7-2. Braves got out to an early lead against Ben Lively with 5 in the first inning and did not look back. Nick Markakis with 3 RBIs. Kurt Suzuki, a 2-run shot, his 17th of the season. Sean Newcomb went 5 in the third, gave up 2 runs on 4 hits for Atlanta. Kansas City and the White Sox are in progress. 7-6 in the bottom of the 6th inning for Chicago. Angels and Astros are scoreless. That game in the 7th. Angels need this one. They're 2.5 behind Minnesota, who's beating Detroit 6-3 in the top of the 9th. So Twins look like they'll hold serve in the wild card. Marlins are down to Arizona early. It's a shootout in the desert, 5-4. Arizona really close to clinching that first wild card spot, so they'll likely be the home team next Wednesday night for the NL wild card game. Texas is down 2-0 to Oakland in the 2nd. Indians and Mariners are scoreless after 1. Rockies and Padres are scoreless in the 2nd. Colorado's been scuffling. They need a win badly. Giants with a 1-0 lead over LA. That game in the 1st inning. So the Nats really kind of played themselves out of the 1 seed the last couple of nights. How about tonight, though, for Wilson Ramos? He had a grand slam tonight for Tampa Bay. Drove in 5 as they beat the Orioles 8-3. Baltimore's been terrible in September. And the Red Sox beat the Reds 5-4. David Price actually got a win out of the bullpen. Craig Kimbrell got the save him because the Yankees lost to Toronto. Boston now is a 4-game lead. So the Red Sox are probably going to win the East. And your wild card game right now is looking like Twins-Yankees next Tuesday at the stadium. Because I don't see Minnesota losing this AL lead. They have still 5 more games with Detroit. Brad Ausmus just got announced today that he won't manage past this season. So you know Detroit's really not. I don't think they're going to be going all out for Brad Ausmus. So Minnesota has the schedule outside of the 3 games in Cleveland. They should win that second wild card. Angels, to me, just have too many problems right now. They blew their chance against Cleveland, and I think Texas doesn't have the pitching to catch up. So I think Minnesota's going to make it. In the NL, I think it's St. Louis. I don't trust Colorado's pitching right now, and they don't really have that one guy that can stop a losing streak. If their offense doesn't find it, St. Louis at least has Lance Lynn. They have Michael Wacha. They have Carlos Martinez. They have Wayne right out of the bullpen. And their offense is starting to catch fire. Guys like Dexter Fowler, Tommy Pham, Matt Carpenter. They have the pieces. And Mike Matheny's a proven manager. I know he's had some tough moments this year. But if St. Louis have gotten that wild card game, they're as scary as anybody because I think they're one of the hottest teams in baseball right now. Yep, that's true. That Matt Olson, I don't know, Seth, because I'm having an issue with the game center screen. Did Olson hit another home run for Oakland tonight against Texas? Looks like, I guess they're up 2-0. So I'm trying to see the Olson's been. Olson's kind of like the Rhys Hoskins on the West Coast. He's been insane for the A's this year. So I don't know if he hit a home run again. I apologize. For some reason, the game center isn't acting up on my computer, so I'm trying to give you the scores here through the phone, at least for the most part. Okay, he did. Thank you. Seth says, now the Cardinals, they don't want to relive 2012. Remember, St. Louis would also, if they won the wild card, would play L.A. They're 5 behind Chicago. I don't think they're catching the Cubs. I still think the Dodgers would beat the Cardinals in a best-of-5. The one team I think LA would struggle with in the DS is Arizona because they could throw Greinke and Robbie Ray in a 5-game series. Those two have been really good. Zach Godley's been really good this year. And JD Martinez has been on a tear. The only problem with the D-backs is their bullpen. If Fernando Rodney struggles at all, they're in trouble. So let me get into tomorrow's pitching matchup. Ron's been with you the last 2 games of the series. I'll be back with you at some point during the Phillies series next week. It'll be Steven Strasburg for the Nats, 14-4 with a 2.60 ERA against Noah Syndergaard, who's 1-2 with a 3.29. You can catch the game on Masson at 7:10 Eastern. The Mets did announce today that Noah Syndergaard will throw the first inning tomorrow, and Matt Harvey will throw from the second inning on. I guess you could say it's still Strasburg versus Harvey. I don't know if I would count it like that, but it's the way it is. Syndergaard's making his first start, by the way, since April 30th, which was that game against the Nats that the Nationals won 23-5 when Syndergaard hurt his lat. I'm not sure I like this move. I understand the Mets want to get Syndergaard in some games before the season ends, but is it worth trying to get him all warmed up to get him to throw an inning when you could easily get him warmed up and throw maybe an inning in the bullpen? Not saying you bring him in when there's people on base, but there's plenty of instances left for the Mets where they're playing Atlanta and Philly next week. There's going to be chances where Syndergaard can come in. I don't like this move, and I think the Mets have handled their pitchers poorly at times. A lot of people will point at Terry Collins as the scapegoat, and Terry's likely going to retire at the end of the year. But I would not put it past the Mets if Dan Worthing got fired. He's their pitching coach. It's been a really bad health year for their pitchers. And for Matt Harvey, we talked about it a little bit last night. He has not been good this year. He's battled injuries. He's battled off-field headlines, whether it was not calling in or showing up to the ballpark. So many things that has been surrounding Harvey this year. The Mets are probably going to bring him back next year. They're going to tender him a contract in all likelihood. But the Nats have actually done a really good job last couple of years against Harvey. After in 2015, he looked unhittable. So that should be a fun night at the ballpark. Steven Strasburg, really good at Citi Field. I wrote it up the other day. Wrote up actually today that went up. He's 7-1 at Citi Field over his last 9 starts in that ballpark. So he's been really good. He's starting to round into form. As I wrote early in the week, he looks like he's back in the Cy Young conversation, maybe top 5. I don't think he'll win it. I still have Scherzer as the favorite, but you get 2 pretty good matchups, at least on paper, with Strasburg versus Syndergaard, at least for an inning, and then Harvey. And then the big one Sunday afternoon while you're watching football, make sure you catch a little bit of Max Scherzer and Jacob deGrom, because that's going to be a fun series, because the Nats have lost 6 times to the Mets. 3 of them are against deGrom. That's how good he's been this season, and it really goes under the radar. So let's. I know Seth just sent me the update on Sean Kelly. I want to just get who tweeted it real quick. Dan Coco from Masson had it. Dusty says Sean Kelly lost feeling in his fingers. Same thing that happened in the postseason last year. Hopeful it's not an elbow issue. And I really hope it's not an elbow issue. That would be really upsetting if that were to happen, because the guys worked really hard. As I said earlier, I think his struggles this year are more from a lot of the injuries he's had. And the whole not feeling of fingers thing, that was the same injury he left Game 5 with last year. So the longer that you have that feeling, I'm not sure. I'm not a doctor. I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. But it doesn't look good. And you hope that he can get back soon. Obviously, I don't think he's making the postseason roster at all. But you just hope that even going into next season, that Sean Kelly's okay. Because I still think he has value. I'm not ready to give up on him just yet. Kelly said, this is from Mark Zuckerman, Kelly said his arm went numb after the last pitch he threw. He'll see the doctor tomorrow. So when your arm goes numb, not a good sign. So Seth, thank you for joining us. I understand. And hopefully you'll get a chance to talk to Ron tomorrow. So let me tell you what we have up on the site. A lot of things you have up on the site today. You can catch my 5 storylines for Nats Mets. So I got a lot of cool ones in there, not just Edwin Jackson. You can read more about Strasburg versus Harvey. You can read more about Jacob deGrom. Ryan Zimmerman's in rare form. I talk about that. Drew Douglas talks about how Trey Turner is one of the most dynamic players in team history. And Ron talks about Stephen Drew's return creates roster questions. That's a big one because, again, Wilmer Defoe struggled off the bench. Yes, Aaron Judge did hit a home run tonight for the Yankees. I forgot to mention that. But with Drew, if Drew does come back, let's say in the championship series, for example, I don't know how you keep Wilmer Defoe if he's not going to be a pinch runner for you off the bench or contribute. His slash line September, as I think Zuckerman tweeted out during the game, it's horrible. It's not played well at all. So Ron talks about that. And I'll have an article up tomorrow about Matt Wieters and the defensive problems that can deal with the Nats this year. So a lot to get into. So should be a fun next 2 games. Hopefully Bryce Harper has a good session tomorrow and he'll get back in the lineup soon. The Nats will be fine. They've lost a couple games by a run. I don't think it's that big of a deal. They're still going to be the 2 seed. They're still going to get a chance to play the Cubs. And in the end, they'll have their opportunities. Again, this is a team that hasn't lost 4 straight the entire year. So give this video a like and subscribe here on the page. We would appreciate it. You can tweet us on Twitter at District on Deck or at Rickinator555. You can also like us on Facebook. Just search District on Deck, hit the like button. All of our articles are there, so feel free to check those out, as well as our DoDcast. So again, Robbie with you the rest of the weekend. And then some of us will be here for Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, and then the playoffs will get underway. We'll have some cool shows for that as well. So once again, the Nats lose tonight 7-6. Sean Kelly left the game with an injury. He said after the game that his arm does feel numb. So that's not a good thing at all. And we'll just hope for the best on what's happening with Kelly. So for Drew, for Ron, for Brian, for Sam, and for all of us here at the District on Deck team, I'm Ricky Keeler saying hope you have a great rest of your night. And we'll see you back here tomorrow for Strasburg versus Syndergaard / Harvey at Citi Field.